It was Chanukah 70 years ago. Not the type of Chanukah we have today in our warm houses together with our family, but Chanukah in the concentration camp of Bergen-Belsen. There, the Jews, beaten and injured from years in slavery to their Nazi masters, decided nonetheless to kindle the Chanukah lights. They decided that one of the leaders of Jewry before World War II who was with them there would be honored with lighting the candles. Rabbi Shapira, the great Bluzhever Rebbe, who survived the war and was one of the rebuilders of Jewish life in America, was chosen to light the Chanukah lights that year in Bergen-Belsen. He took a shoe, took a piece of his uniform that he had in the camp, ran it through the shoe, some shoe polish that they have around it, and that served as their nearest Chanukah. He approached with all the tired Jews around him to light the Neros. He said the first bracha, Asher Kadeshanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Chanukah. He said the second bracha, Sha'asanisim lavoseinu bayamim ahim bazman hazeh. And since it was the first night, he needed to say the last bracha of Shechianu. But before he said Shechianu, he paused and he looked to his side. After a moment, he turned back to the Neros, and with tremendous kavanah, with tremendous concentration, he said, Shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. After he lit the Neros, another individual approached him and they asked him a very obvious question. I understand, they said to the Bluzhever, that you said the first bracha and the second bracha. But the third bracha, Shechianu, literally means who gave us life and kept us for this momentous occasion. How can you say that what we have today here is life? How can you call this time a momentous occasion here in Bergen-Belsen? The Rebbe said to him, you know, I paused because I had the same question. But when I looked to my side and I saw Jews who were beaten and tired, nonetheless looking with such tremendous hope to the lighting of the Neros Chanukah, with such tremendous zeal for this mitzvah, this one thing that they had at this terrible time, I realized that indeed this is a momentous occasion. I realized that we indeed are as alive as we always have been. You know, the Gemara tells us that the simple way of fulfilling the mitzvah of Neros Chanukah is to light only one candle, every single night once. But the Gemara tells us there is another form, the Mahadrin, the ideal form, and that is, as Beis Hillel explains, to go from 1 to 8, to light one more every single night. The commentaries wonder, why by this mitzvah do we have an option of how to fulfill it? Usually there's one way only to fulfill a mitzvah. How come here there's a mahadran, an ideal? And how come we specifically light in that way and not in the simple way? No one could have blamed the Bluzhever Rebbe and those Jews in Bergen-Belsen not to light. No one could have blamed so many Jews throughout history not to light the Neros Chanukah. Even the Maccabim, the Chashmonayim, at the time of the miracle of Chanukah. No one would have blamed them after the war where so many died not to light the menorah. Nonetheless, they did so. The Chashmonayim, the Jews after them, the Bluzhever, and even Jews in distress today all light the Neros Chanukah. We choose to do it in the Mahadran form, in the ideal form, even when we don't need to. That is why, specifically built into the mitzvah, there is this concept of the ideal. Because when even Jews are not required, when even Jews have an excuse not to celebrate Chanukah or keep to their tradition, their willingness and their strength allow them to do so. That is what the mitzvah of Neros Chanukah commemorates. The ability of Jews throughout history to light no matter what the circumstances. That's why the mitzvah is specifically done in the form of Mahadran, the ideal form, to commemorate their strength. When we come to light our Neros Chanukah today, many of us don't have the troubles that the Chashmonayim did. We don't have the troubles that the Bluzhever did or so many Jews throughout history. But we have our own troubles, our own personal challenges. The Neros Chanukah come to remind us that as Jews, we have the power of Mahadran inside us. The power of the ideal, of doing our tradition and performing mitzvos and having meaning in our lives, even when it's so difficult. If we truly inculcate the message that the halacha teaches us of Mahadran, and we remember the strength of Jews throughout history lighting Neros Chanukah, no matter what the challenges were, we too, along with our families, will be granted a freilichen Chanukah, a joyous and happy Chanukah for all of us here, all of us in Eretz Yisrael, and the entire Jewish community.